In the previous video called Fatherhood, Forging a Family, I spoke mostly about forging a family where the family was the focus. But as I mentioned in that video, it's not just about the family, but also about the father. And in this video, I want to share how you're forged by fatherhood. As a father, you experience that same fire of transformation, that you are not only shaping your family, but you are also shaped by your family. You are not only refining your family, but you are refined by your family. The two are one. So let's put the father in focus for this video. And I'll use some of the same examples, but just show you the inverse of what we explored in the last video. So you see that responsibilities. I was sharing how our children, our partner, learns to be more responsible because you are responsible. You're embodying responsibility. You're embodying accountability. So that's how you can hold others accountable to the higher standard that you are embodying, raising the family to those higher standards. But also, you see that through fatherhood, you are being initiated as well. You are being initiated into living those higher standards. And you see, you may experience this as pressure as a father, where you feel like you are feeling the pressure to change. And this is really that pressure or that fire of transformation. The pressure, we typically call it pressure, it's more of a threshold. And this is the threshold that everyone experiences through initiations, because initiations is really a threshold. And the threshold is like a passage. It's a passage into a new way of living. So these thresholds are experienced, and as a result of going through the threshold, instead of running from the threshold, you're rising. And when you rise, you'll see that you are living at a higher standard. And it's from that point of living that you are then calling others to rise up, to meet you. And that's your initiation for them. So you are initiated, and then you become an initiator, right? And obviously, there's no initiation without initiative. So it's really you taking initiative, right? Taking responsibility, you may just say, in some of these examples, right? So you see that in some of these day-to-day situations or activities. You see that life is initiating you, that you can't just remain passive anymore. You're being called into action. You're being called to rise. You see that there's more at stake here. Let me kind of paint the picture for you. You've got 2 kids, and you can see how the lack of discipline, the lack of structure, order in the family is actually detrimental to their development. You can see how they're going to be growing up, or actually not growing up, because of some of these things that are more or less a consequence or a byproduct of the lack of discipline, the lack of structure, the lack of order. So this is, when you start seeing it like this, you feel called to do something about it. You're called into action. This is my duty. This is my responsibility. Because now it's not just about you. It's about your kids. It's about your family. Right? So you have a sense of duty, responsibility. It's not obligation. It's your it's your duty. It's your dharma. And you see that these type of situations are really asking you to rise. And like I said, it's only because you rise that then you can call others to rise. Right? So most fathers will run from these initiations. Right? What does this look like? This looks like literally running from a relationship. This looks like an absent father who runs away. Right? And this is the father that runs away because he can't handle the heat. He can't handle the heat, so he runs away. Right? But those who stay in the fire are transformed by the fire. That's the true father, who has been initiated and has risen from the ashes. So this sort of pressure, this threshold, this building up is really experienced as those everyday challenges that are asking you to overcome those challenges, not by running from them, not by resisting them, but actually surrendering to them. And you see that it's through that surrender that you are actually being initiated. Where a lot of people confuse this is they feel, or they think, that surrender equals passivity. And it's not. It's not. You don't just stay in these situations and be passive. You actually find that it's through your surrender that initiation actually makes you more active, more effective. Right? You're fully present. It actually is you becoming a better father for your children, or a better partner to your wife. So there's an improvement in the family because of this initiation, because you are being forged. Because you're being forged, you're being refined. And because you are being refined, your family is being refined as a result. So you see how the two are inseparable, which is why I wanted to speak to this perspective. What's another sort of situation or everyday thing? Leadership. Leadership as the father in the family. You see that when you start rising as a leader, 1, you won't be understood. 2, you're going to experience resistance to your rise. Now, what is that resistance? That resistance is the old structure, right? So because you're rising, the old structure is actually feeling threatened. Because you're rising, you're illuminating everything that is false. This false structure starts collapsing as you rise and embody the leader you are. Let's ground a little bit more so it's not so abstract. As a passive father, your partner would actually be in more of the position of power, let's call it, through control, through manipulation, through domination. He or she is in a position of power. And your rise, it's energetic. It's not about position, it's about presence. It will threaten that false power. It's not really power. We could call it force, but it's not power that your partner has. It's positional. It's illusionary. And when you actually start showing up as that presence, because the Father is a presence, not a person. When you start showing up as that presence, you're going to expose the illusion. You're going to expose the illusion that they are in control. You're going to expose the illusion that what they're doing is necessary, needed, actually doing something. It just shows through contrast that what they're doing is not working and what they're doing is actually not needed. This could be, to make it more explicit, micromanaging. That you see that your partner may feel like they're in control and a sense of control or power because they're micromanaging everything. And your very presence starts illuminating how actually life doesn't need to be controlled. Life doesn't need to be micromanaged. You know, the family doesn't need micromanaging, right? Micromanaging or managing in that point of, for that sake, is actually not a quality of a leader. A leader doesn't manage people. A leader simply embodies power. And through that embodiment of power, it transforms those around them. Right? Just like I said in the last video, he embodies the standards that he wants to live and therefore see in his reflection. It's reflected in the family. The leader doesn't need to be understood. You as a father, you as a leader, don't need to be understood. People are often wanting to be understood by their partner, their kids. There's this sort of seeking. I just wish people would understand me. A true leader doesn't need to be understood. Because when you're a true leader, when you're the true father, when you're the truth, you're undeniable. And when you're undeniable, you don't need to be understood. It's self-evident. So this sort of shows up when you're a rising leader. when you're embodying the true Father, being forged, embodying that strength, when you've been shaped, strengthened over and over, that consistency of being forged, heated up, cooled, like a blacksmith forging a samurai sword. Your resilience, your strength is felt. And it's what allows you to lead in these tough times. Because as you rise, like I said, you're going to experience resistance from the old structure. The tyranny that was present when you were absent, not really absent, but when you're passive, when you were not embodying your full potential, then you see that you're going to get pushback. You're going to get pushback on your structure, your order. Your family has become so used to chaos. Their nervous system has actually what's the word here? Got so used to this chaos where it actually, they feed off of it. They feed off of it. They think it's normal. Well, it is normal, but it's not natural. And your relaxed presence starts exposing that chaos. Like I said, it's through contrast that it's exposed. When everyone is in this fight or flight mode and you're relaxed, you're still, you're grounded, then it exposes, just your very presence exposes your way of being, exposes that chaos. People running around, freaking out all the time, panicking, right? It exposes that constant stress that people have become so used to. And they feel threatened by how calm you are, how relaxed you are. They sort of want you to freak out with them because then it doesn't reflect that chaos back to them. When you're chaotic, they don't know how chaotic they are. But when you're still, when you're calm, when you're relaxed, then they actually see a reflection of that chaos. It's only because you're still that they actually see that reflection. Like a still lake, reflecting the mountains, reflecting the sky. It's only because the lake is still that you see the reflection. So when you are that still lake, you'll reflect that chaos back to them. They won't understand the decisions that you're making. As a father, as a leader, you're making decisions from your clarity. It's your clarity that allows you to make decisions, clean, clear decisions that come from truth. And when you start restructuring the family, you're starting to build a structure on truth. then your new structure will then meet the resistance. It will be questioned. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? They want to stay in the old ways of living. But your structure is to support your family in living truth. Provides protection, provision, creates order. So the chaos doesn't like that order. When you start holding these standards and boundaries, you set the standards, you set the boundaries, and you hold them firmly. You hold the line of truth. You're not fighting your family, but you're not backing down when you meet the resistance. This is like that warrior energy. You're holding the line. The protector, you're protecting that which is sacred. You're a man of honor. And when you give those consequences, you'll see how there will be even more resistance. Resistance from the kids. And it becomes very manipulative. You take something away as a consequence, and all of a sudden, oh, they want to make a deal. But I'll be good, and I'll do this, and I'll change, only because something was taken away. And if you give in, if you collapse, if your structure collapses, you don't follow through with that consequence, then you actually, what's the word here? Collude with them. You teach them that they can avoid these consequences through manipulation. And that's a very powerful moment for both you and your family. Because in these times of following through on the consequence, you're not doing it out of punishment, but you're doing it actually out of honoring your word, respecting yourself and the boundaries you've set. It's your integrity. It's about something deeper. Principle. Standards. The truth. And these are those qualities that through giving the consequence, you're actually instilling. It's through your discipline that these qualities are being instilled in your children. They're shaping your children. But you see, when you don't have that discipline, without that discipline, then your kids become entitled. They learn to manipulate. They learn how to avoid discomfort, avoid the consequences of their actions. They don't learn cause and effect. They simply grow up or don't grow up because the lack of discipline. And it's very easy, especially with the false feminine, which again uses the manipulation, emotional manipulation, people pleasing, basically giving the kids what they want. And you see, this is what you'll meet when you start setting standards, creating boundaries, and following through on your consequences. That you'll actually experience what seems like a split, a division in your family, where you will be holding the line as the leader, holding the line of truth, and the kids will try and avoid that discomfort. They'll avoid your order, your structure, your boundaries, your consequences, and go running to the one who was previously in charge. And she will be sabotaging your leadership by undermining it and manipulating the children through emotion and giving them what they need, giving in. So basically, a lot of words to basically say, the father stands strong with a spine, grounded in truth, holding these firm boundaries, containing, not collapsing. And the mother, if she's in her false feminine, or whatever you want to call it, the distorted feminine, perhaps, you like that? When she's not embodying her feminine essence, then she collapses this weakness. It seems like rescuing the children from the consequences, but really it's about her rescuing herself from the discomfort. There's a tension, there's a pressure that's felt in the family when the father is, there's probably a better word than this, I don't think I really like using this word, enforces those consequences. Let's just say gives out. I don't think I want to use that word, enforces. Gives out those consequences, right? And the mother then softens the boundaries, can't hold those boundaries, doesn't back the father as a unified strength, the integrity of being one. So there's a split. And there's a sort of undermining of the father's leadership. It's not respected. And it's this sort of old structure, old way of living where she still wants to be in control. So as you start rising as the leader that you are, you'll see that the old control system will fight for control. And this is where it's really important as a father that is continuing to be forged, that in these specific moments, in the heat of the moment, that you stand your ground, that you don't cave. She will cave. but you don't cave. That is the false father, the one that caves, collapses, weakens in these tough times, where really you have to stand your ground with a spine, hold the line. And this is where you experience the fire of transformation, because it's just going to be you. There's no one going to be holding the line with you. You might be in a family of 5 or 4 or 2 or whatever it is. I don't know how many kids you have or how many partners you have. But in these moments, it's just going to be you. You alone are holding the line. There's going to be no backup. And this is really where you're tested. Are you going to collapse? Are you going to cave in when you have 3 kids, 2 kids siding with their mother and have come to her asking to get out of the consequence, asking to avoid it? And they beg and they plead and they guilt and they shame you, all this in the name of avoiding this emotional manipulation that happens. All this comes up. That's the resistance to the rise of your leadership that then challenges you. Are you going to be a man of your word? Are you going to follow through with this consequence? Whatever it is. Whatever it is. Last consequence I gave out was no ice cream on our camping trip. Kids were goofing around when we were packing up, and the standard was set before we started packing up. Want everyone helping. Do your part. We'll work as a team. We'll be able to pack up quicker. We'll go to the beach, and on the way back, we'll stop for ice cream. It'll be your treat. And you're rewarded because you're responsible. You're rewarded for your responsibility. You're rewarded for your help, your support. But I'm not rewarding you when you're causing problems on our campsite, when we're trying to pack up, when you're getting in the way and adding more work. So the standard was taking responsibility in that time. And you see that the consequence holds you accountable for your actions. If I don't follow through on that consequence, then I'm implicitly saying your actions don't matter. Right? I'm implicitly saying, or I'm reading, or whatever the saying is, I'm saying without words that you're going to be rewarded for poor behavior. Right? So it's those tough decisions as a leader you have to make. And it's something that then as a family, everyone is in it together. Right? But then if I go and collapse, if I cave, if I don't stand by my word, then what happens is, one, they feel that, they think that those boundaries aren't real. They learn the boundaries through the consequences. Okay, Dad's words actually mean something, and these boundaries are real. And if we cross the boundary, then we are going to experience the consequences. Okay, these standards are something that is real. And if I'm not meeting those standards, then I'm going to experience the effects of not doing so. And this is how children learn. So to save them, to prevent them from experiencing that discomfort. Oh, but I really wanted ice cream. Oh, I was expecting to get the mint chocolate chip or the strawberry or the... No, they like bubble gum, actually. The bubble gum, the birthday cake, the cotton candy, all the crazy ones. You know, okay, yeah. Okay, let's just put it behind us. Forget all that goofing off and, you know, behavior that it was completely unsafe in the campsite, and we'll just pretend that didn't happen and give in. Well, I'm not a people pleaser, right? I already said that in the last video. As a leader, you can't be a people pleaser. You're the manipulation is the people pleaser. The manipulation is giving in, giving them what they want. And when you continue to give kids what they want like that, and you save them from their consequences, you aren't helping them grow up to be strong leaders, right? So they'll never come back to me in life thanking me for giving them everything they wanted, but come back to me thanking me for the discipline, for those consequences, for asking them, calling them forth into greater responsibility, holding them accountable for their actions. That's where they are forged. But like I said, is you are forged in that moment. That are you going to fall back into the passivity of the false father? Are you going to just stand by the side of your partner and allow her to undermine your leadership, right? Most fathers actually don't take that lead, right? So when you actually start to take that lead in your family and show up as the leader, it's not going to be easy sailing. You're going to be experiencing the next phase, which is the resistance to your rise in leadership. And this is not something that's easy. This is the challenge that continues to forge you and really fortify your leadership. You really show your partner by not collapsing, by not budging on your boundaries, not weakening, softening, caving, that you meant what you said, that you're following through. And it's actually that which at first is resisted by the feminine. That after she exhausts that resistance, she starts to soften. And she'll see, and it's a way of testing. The feminine tests the masculine. Are you really going to be the leader in the family? Are you really going to be the father? Are you really going to stand strong? Are you here to stay? It's sort of like that, giving it obviously a little bit of a narrative here, but it's sort of like that she's questioning. That's really what her resistance is about. I mean, obviously it's about her having control, but it's sort of both simultaneously. That then it's actually when you show the feminine that you are unshakable, that you're not budging, that you're immovable, that's actually what she's testing. That's what she wants to feel. She wants to feel a man. She wants to feel the father who's unshakable, who's immovable, who's here to stay, right? And that is you being rooted as a father, where you are rooted in yourself, but you become the root of the family. So that is another example of being forged, right? And as you can see, this forging, this reshaping, right? Well, what is it reshaping? Well, the old shaping was your collapse, right? It was the lack of containment, the lack of tone, the lack of structure, right? That this passivity, right? This flaccidness, I don't think that's a word. It's flaccidity. It's being flaccid. It's like limp, right? You're being, like how people say, you're being too soft, right? It's like soft in a bad way. That you're just being like a doormat. You're just kind of standing there as a bystander, right? So it's sort of a wake-up call, right? Are you just going to be a bystander of your life, right? Or are you going to participate fully? And that's what you're being invited into. That's what living truth is. This is not about escaping. Hello. This is not about escaping, bypassing, just being the witness and nothing changes in your life. No, this is about stepping into your life fully, right? Where you see that you're embodying truth in these roles. You are the living truth that is living these roles, right? And that's what you're experiencing. So let me give you another example here. We talked about the rise of leadership, standards, honesty, respect is another one. And you can touch on that. So it's through your strength, your firmness, actually the lack of collapsing, the fact that you don't collapse, the fact that you don't cave, the fact that you don't weaken, the fact that you don't divide yourself in the sense of what you say you're going to do, you then don't do it, right? So you follow through. You're not fragmented. Well, you say you're going to do one thing and then you don't do it. This kind of wishy-washy, this flakiness, you can't be a father when you're flaky, right? That's not fatherhood, right? When people, maybe that's a word that people don't really recognize, flakiness. It's like people who don't show up all the time. They're flaky. Right? Is this person going to show up? Are they reliable? No, because they're flaky. We can't really trust this man because he's flaky. He said he's going to show up and he didn't show up, right? Most fathers are like that, right? So the fact that you're showing up consistently, and this is really the key to the rise in leadership in your family, is that you are embodying these qualities that I'm sharing, these qualities that I'm transmitting, that you're embodying them consistently, right? And it's through each experience like that. Like I gave you the experience of holding the kids accountable on the camping trip, following through with the consequence. And yeah, okay, there's discomfort, you know. I don't like you, I hate you, it's all your fault, we're not eating ice cream, and all this, right? That's the heat of the moment. That's the pressure, right? Right? So, your wife, you're ruining it for the kids, right? Try and guilt trip, right? You cave, you collapse under that. If you're manipulated, then you see you can't lead, right? But actually the fact that you're not able to be manipulated is actually what really shows off the strength. It really shows off show off is not a good word here. It really demonstrates the sovereignty, right? So like I said, how you have to hold the line by yourself, alone, in these times, these turbulent times, these times that are heated and pressured. You just feel it, the energy in your family, right? Your partner could not agree with your decision. That's one thing, but to not respect your decision is another. And if he or she does not respect your decision and starts throwing a tantrum just like the kids do, you see this as the immaturity, right? This is because she's still in her false feminine. She hasn't matured. She's not a mature mother, mature woman. She's still in her wounded girl energy, let's call it, right? She hasn't done the inner work. And where was it going with this? And you see, it's sort of like 3 kids and the mother all throwing a tantrum. Just give me what I want. I wanted the ice, the adult. I wanted the ice cream too. The nostalgia, right? I used to get the ice cream treat at the end of camping when I was young. You're ruining it, right? Everyone turns on you as the leader. You're not understood. Why are you making this decision? Why you gotta be so anti-fun, Dad? Right? You're no fun, right? And you see, if you're the fun one all the time, then, and you're simply just giving them what they want, you're giving them what they want, and you're manipulated, then you're you're not really forging your family, right? And chaos continues, and chaos really just collapses under its own weight. It sort of destroys itself when there's no order. So you can see that, and you're seeing that from the view of the father, that if I don't have any discipline, if I don't discipline my kids, then they're not going to learn any responsibility here. They're not going to be accountable for their actions. And this is very practical, right? This is not the stuff that you hear most people talk about in spirituality. This is just some practical stuff, right? That if they're not responsible for their own belongings, how are they going to grow up and have their own family? How are they going to get a job, right? If I'm teaching them that their actions don't really matter, then how is that going to play out in their job? Well, it looks like a rude awakening. You're not responsible. You're showing up late. You're not punctual. You're not meeting the standards in wherever you're working. Well, you get fired, right? You get fired, and you see how there's so much of this nonsense in our society now that protects people from being fired or let go because they don't meet the standards. And this is really when we don't have a strong society, right? We don't have a strong society because, again, society is just a reflection of the individual, right? So that's really what a society is, right? It's just you. It's just you. So to transform the society, you have to transform the individual, right? So a weak society is exactly that. It's because it's still in its immature phase. It lacks the discipline. It lacks these basics, the responsibility. It's like when you see people and you're going, just like I'm out here, just in a kind of green space, and you see people littering, right? This lack of responsibility, accountability, how someone can just drink something and then just throw it, right? So it's teaching them basics, right? How to hold a job, how to be accountable for their actions, right? So not following through then really is the lack of fatherhood, right? You're not forging them. And it's because you weren't forged yourself, right? Like I said, is to forge your family, you must first be forged. So some of those examples that I just shared there, let me give you one more. Let's go with honor, respect. To have a sense of honor in everything that you do. That you're putting your heart into it. You're putting your heart into it. You're doing something with deep reverence, respect. You're honoring those around you. That you see that these boundaries, these standards, these consequences, you're not just pulling them out of thin air. It's coming from that clarity. It's coming from a deep sense of respect, reverence, devotion, that you're disciplining your kids, that you're seeing something greater. You're seeing the depth. And you can see their journey, their evolution, because you've already experienced that within yourself. You've experienced how that discipline has rewarded you. You're experiencing the fulfillment of the consequences of your actions earlier on in your journey. So you know that if you just let your kids have their way, they're not going to be initiated into what you're living. And you're experiencing this contrast when you look at the world and you see society, you see how certain people in your life lack the discipline, lack the accountability, lack the responsibility. They haven't matured. So you see that you're disciplining your kids, you're devoted to your kids, you're raising the standards because of that clarity. You can see how practical it is. That if you don't, then who will? Right? And this is where it ties back to what I said before. This is your duty. This is your responsibility. This is your dharma. This is the purpose of the Father. Right? This is what you're initiating your kids into. Right? It's a rite of passage for your kids. But you showing your, let's say your daughter or your son, so let's go both, your kids, your daughters and your sons, that you don't tolerate disrespect when your wife or your partner is speaking to you in a way that disrespects you, dishonors you, and you no longer tolerate that you're standing your ground. You're not absorbing that and just letting it slide passively, But you're showing your kids in that moment, by not tolerating it, what self-respect and what self-honor look like. They can see it. They can feel it energetically. In that moment, you'll be teaching your daughter what to look for in a man. When she's dating, when she's marrying, if you'll be teaching your boys how to treat a woman by the way you treat your wife, by the way you speak to your wife. They won't need to read some book, how to get girls or how to attract women or any of this silliness, because they would have had it modeled for them through you, through your embodiment. So like that, your very presence, your embodiment actually is the highest teaching. It's energetically transforming them. It's initiating them. It's attuning them to the frequency that you are holding, embodying, living. And they see that. Just like that example of how to treat a woman or not tolerating disrespect from your partner, which then teaches your daughter what to look for in their partner. It's the same thing with standards and principles. When they see that you're embodying those standards, those principles, they have learned it energetically. It's experiential, not conceptual. They feel it in their bones. They feel it in their cells. They just know. Right? But the way that I speak to my daughter's mother, to my wife, she will energetically feel that something is off when she starts dating and a boy is not speaking to her or treating her respectfully. Her nervous system will feel that. It won't feel safe, right? It'll be like alarms, bells going off, that something feels off here. And that's really the discernment of the heart. She's discerning truth from falsehood, that this is falsehood, that no one should speak to me like this. No one should treat me like this. And this seems foreign because that was not modeled when she was growing up. Right? So again, it comes back to the higher standards, the principles that you're embodying. If I'm out with my boys, and by boys I mean my sons, right? They will be energetically attuning to the principles that I embody, the principles I live by. Those principles will shape their lives. And it will be something that is learned through osmosis. That attunement, which is energetic. It won't be something like handing them, hello, it won't be something like handing them a rule book, a code of conduct, here, how to be a man 101. It won't be like that. It will be in their DNA. It's energetic. So these times that are often experienced as difficult, challenging, where it feels easier to run, then to rise are exactly the moments of initiation in your life that you experience through or in fatherhood. There are those times where it's the everyday situations in the family life. It's like the small wins sometimes, where you are relaxing before bed and you know you had to make a difficult decision. You know it hurt your kids to take away their toy as the consequence, or to restrain from the ice cream treat coming home from camping, or saying that they can't go to their friend's house for a sleepover because they were disrespectful to their mother. And you see that in those times of tears, tantrums, they get over it. They get over it. And sometimes I find that after those tantrums, after they cool off, that they come close. They've exhausted that resistance. And are more receptive. And when they're receptive like that, they have a new perspective. They're able to see why the decision was made. Especially if I give the clarity of not justifying my actions, because a leader doesn't justify or explain what they do, why they did it, but more so illuminating the results or rewards of those decisions. Because actually, when you embody this fully, you don't even need to explain further. It's something that they actually energetically come into alignment with. So after their tantrum, after they've exhausted themselves and they're not resisting the leadership, they actually realign to the leadership. They respect you for holding your ground, following through, being consistent, being stable, being present, not collapsing, not caving. It's sort of the reward that you experience after the forge. So there's this pressure build up that you feel, the heat of the moment. That's kind of like the fire of transformation, the inferno, right? The chaos is meeting your order. The chaos is trying to overrule you. The old control system tries to be the authority it's doing everything to just pull you down as you're rising. Like I said, through your consistency, through embodying it more and more. The more you integrate it, the more it becomes embodied, becomes the natural order. And what starts happening is the family starts realigning to this natural order. And you start experiencing more balance in the family. You're restoring balance, you're restoring order, you're restoring harmony in your family after that resistance is experienced. But it's that resistance in your family that's like the fire. Just like you feel it internally, this buildup, this pressure, right? Where you want to, I just can't, I gotta run from this. It's kind of like push it down and run, right? It's the sort of same thing that people experience externally in their family. It's just a reflection of that. Oh my God, my wife is driving me crazy, or my kids, I just have to, I gotta get out of here, right? Right? But when you don't run, when you don't fight back, right? You don't meet resistance with resistance. You don't run from the fire. You rise from the fire. And like the phoenix that rises from the ashes, you are reborn, right? It's a resurrection, right? And that's really the essence of being forged, right? There's a death and a rebirth. That's the fire of transformation. And like I said, is the true father is constantly dying and being reborn over and over and over. Just like, I use the example, the blacksmith that is heating up the samurai sword, heating up the metal, right? It's being forged, pressure, it's being hit. It's cooled, it's tempered, it's heated up again. It's shaped again, hit, boom. That's what makes it so strong, right? And just like that, you feel that same strength as the Father. It's this strength that's immovable, unshakable. Like you can't, it's unstoppable. It's, there's no other way to say it. It's energetic, right? But it's that sovereign energy as the leader that you are embodying, and you've simply become what you've always are, right? What you've always been. It's just been dormant. It's just been asleep. It's just been in you in potential. But this seed of potential has now grown. It's become, and now you're living the fulfillment of that realization. This is what I call actualization. You're actualizing your true potential. This is living truth. So if you're ready to actualize your potential, if you're ready to actualize your realization, you want to stop bypassing the everyday life, and you want to experience the everyday life as the sacredness of life that you are, then I invite you to join me in fatherhood. Join me in forging yourself in living truth.